Last year, I stumbled across a Twitter account. It was a crypto trader, and he said he was publicly going to trade 5 Bitcoin to see what he could turn it into. 8 months later, he turned it into about 30 plus Bitcoin. So his 30K turned into about $1.5 million plus dollars. To have that good of a trading year is one thing. To do it all publicly and call your shots is an entirely different thing. And I have so much respect for this dude. I'm having RookieXBT on the show, right about to play that interview. I ask him how he did it. How did he make this $1 million? What's his trading background? How does he look at DeFi plays? How is he managing his money? What's his advice to other people that want to do it and grow an account? And this is a really fun discussion. Like I said, have so much respect for Rookie. And I think you guys are all going to enjoy this episode. Hit the like button right down below if you've been enjoying these trader highlights, also the market updates, and subscribe so you get a notification when these new videos come out, because I think YouTube blocks some crypto content, so you do want to make sure you're subscribed. So let's get right into this episode with RookieXBT after the intro.
There's only one way out from here, and that's up.
We're going up!
It's $100 million. That's a lot of money.
We're going up!
Which makes it the holy grail of investment.
Yeah, we're going up!
I'm not going to answer. This is my show. Today I'm joined by RookieXBT. Welcome to the show, man. How are you?
Great. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Of course, dude. We've
I'm
we've talked
excited.
a couple times a week for over a year. Talked about trading ideas. You've shared your journey. You have an audience of like 100,000 traders that follow you, and we've never had a face-to-face discussion. I've always kind of known you as Rookie, so it's nice to finally sit down and do this, man.
Yeah. Likewise. I'm excited for this. Let's get this going.
Most people know you from your trading and your market opinion. I think I stumbled across you maybe 1 year ago exactly, and you were doing a public trading competition. We're going to talk about that because you turned 2 Bitcoin into a couple $1 million, and that was in 6 or 8 months. I want to know what you were doing before all this, because you came onto the scene and you've just absolutely crushed it. What were you doing before you were this public on crypto Twitter, and was it trading something else? Were you in finance? How did this all start?
Well, I started off when I was in high school. No, not high school. It was when I was 13, 14. I was trading stocks with my parents' money. They were nice enough to lend me some money. I was trading stocks just because I liked the idea of using my money and making it work for me. So that's how I really got into this world of degeneracy. So trading stocks ran up my equity quite a bit with the marijuana bubble in 2014, but ultimately got wrecked. I mean, I was like 15 and didn't know any better, was taking ridiculous risk, and yeah, so that happened. But over the years, I was always a fan of the stock market, crypto trading, and I got into crypto when I was 17. So in 2016, wait, how old was I? Yeah. So in 2016, 2017, I got into crypto. And at the time, I wasn't aware of Twitter at all. It was just me, myself, and I. I had some money from writing articles for people because of my presence. There was like a community on Facebook for stock trading, and I was pretty involved in these communities at the time. Nobody knew how old I was, but I guess they respected me because I would like to think I knew what I was talking about. But so these people would pay me money to write articles for them, for their websites and whatnot. I was in high school at the time, and I was really just looking at any way to make a few bucks here and there. And they would send me, like, for a nice 500-word article, they would send me like $250, for example. For me at the time, that was an absurd amount of money. Like, I had maybe $50 in my bank account, so them sending me $250 per article was a pretty big deal. So what I would do is I would just write all these articles for people on topics I barely knew anything about, and I would just accumulate all of these dollars in my PayPal at the time. And I stumbled across eToro, which was like, I'm sure you've heard of it. It's like one of the biggest trading platforms, right? So at the time, they were the only website to accept PayPal as a payment option or funding method. And I was very keen on making my money work for me, like I said. So I had all this money on PayPal and I had no means of making it grow. So I was just like on Google one day and literally Googling word for word how to make my PayPal money grow. And the options were either poker or eToro. And I wasn't the best poker player, so I got into eToro, deposited something like a couple grand. I think it was $2,000 at the end of 2016. And eToro offers crazy leverage, and I was just messing around with things like stocks and gold. I knew nothing about gold, but it offered 50x leverage, and I was like, okay, this is cool. And at the time, I had no idea what leverage was. It just seemed like a, get rich overnight kind of thing.
Sure.
So I remember like my first gold trade, I opened a nice $500 long, a 50x $500 long, went to sleep, woke up the next day, like my 500 turned into 1,000. I had no idea why at all, but I was like, okay, I can get used to this. And that's how I really got into the whole world of leverage trading. And then that's how it slowly, I started to notice like on their top gainers every day, there would be like a bunch of different stocks. And one day I noticed Ethereum when it was at like $7, and it was the top gainer on eToro. It was up like 30%, early 2017.
Sure.
So I was like, okay, this is cool. I ignored it completely. So it went from like $7 to $11. And then the next day, it was up another 30%. Ignored it again because I'd never heard of this thing. And then the next day, it was up like 50%. And then that's when I started really looking into it. I was like, why is this thing going up from $5 all the way to like 25? And then I fell into the rabbit hole of crypto, did a bunch of research, came across the Ethereum Enterprise Alliance. And that's when I was convinced that crypto is the future. At 18, I think I was 18 at the time. So yeah, then I started messing around with crypto, made a good amount of money in 2017, just trading crypto with leverage on Polo. Turned 5K into like 100K at the time. It felt like life-changing money. But obviously, I lost it all. Within like 6 months, it was one of those things where I had no idea what I was doing, but it was working, so I just kept on milking it until it stopped working. And when it stopped working, I just lost it all.
Right.
Ran up the account quite a bit, but eventually went bust, like most people did in 2017, I feel. But I was very keen on having as much skin in the game, and it's something I've been preaching on Twitter for the longest time. Having skin in the game is like a superpower, because if you go bust and this market continues going up, you don't want to be the guy that's on the sidelines, right? So even if I went bust, I would do anything I had to in order to always have skin in the game, whether it be having a real job. I had a student job in 2017, just so I can fund like crypto. Like I wasn't even worried about student debt, tuition, none of that. It was just I needed money in crypto because, like, we all know the potential here, and especially me. At the time I knew the potential with crypto. It's just I didn't want to be underexposed, so I did anything I had to, whether it be a real job, whether it be applying for credit cards, which I don't recommend anyone doing, but I was pretty desperate back in the day. And yeah, I was really at rock bottom in 2017, even 2018. But yeah, 2018 I started falling in love with coins, which I don't recommend anyone doing, especially in a bear market. It was so stupid. Fell in love with a few coins, experienced some insane drawdown. But in the end of 2019, I decided to finally pivot and quit, my love affair with all these different coins I had, and just start, taking more control of my money and being more productive with it. And then that's how I got into actively day trading crypto. So it's a relatively new thing for me. It's maybe like a year and a half, 2 years of just actively trading crypto.
Shifting the focus.
Well, yeah, that's the long story.
You know what's so funny? You mentioned this at the very beginning, how you're writing articles. To to get some money to fund your account. It was probably 2017 for me. I was writing articles on Seeking Alpha. I don't know if you've heard about that site, but I think they would pay you what, like $50, $100. I think they give you $20 up front if you publish the article and it was accepted. And then depending on the amount of views it got, which would be like, I don't know, if you wrote about Tesla, maybe you get 100 views or something, you'd get like 10 cents or something per view. So you could write these articles and get like, you know, if I could push out 3 or 4 articles a week, make a couple $100 a week. And I was working this job, working at an FX and CFD broker. And it's funny, like that was my intro too of, I want to fund an account. Back then it was FX. And it was like, how do I gather up money? Like, I don't even care. I'm not using this money to go take a trip next week. How do I gather up more money to take a risk and actually participate in what I'm thinking about every single day and what I'm learning on, what I'm working on? It's funny that like writing articles, and it's such a weird comparison then, because I imagine you went through this too. Like you would spend so much time writing these articles and half the time you're just learning about what you're writing about, right? You don't really know enough
to totally winging it.
Yeah, totally winging it, but you're learning a ton while you're doing it. And then fast forward to now when it's like, I used to do that for what, $50 and maybe 50 people would see it. It's like now you publish a chart and you do the same thing. You get 250,000 people that see it. You draw a magnet on Bitcoin chart and people lose their minds. So it's crazy how like
thousands of people. It's absolutely crazy. The journey is insane. And I guess it makes you appreciate it more, like how far we've come. But that's how I'm like very much similar to you. Just started with articles, had like maybe a couple dozen people reading them, but it's crazy.
It didn't matter. Another thing you mentioned there, staying alive. Going back to like that 2017 cycle where you first ran up an account. I think a lot of us, including myself, were kind of fooled by maybe how good we were at trading, just fooled by bullishness. Like everything was going up. So, I mean, anyone could be a trader, kind of similar to the market we have right now. But it's funny, like, 2017 was crazy. 2018, I think, was even crazier before the bear really kicked in. But one of the things that I've learned and that I try to keep in mind is that staying alive is probably the most important thing. And you said always having skin in the game, because each cycle, it seems like, man, 2017 will never happen again. Like that's happening again, but like way bigger right now.
On steroids.
Yeah. And so what I've realized is I think this is always going to be the case. Stocks only go up. Those are memes, and Bitcoin only goes up. That's a meme. But I always think there's going to be an opportunity where it is so valuable to just stay alive. And you get so many swings at bat here in crypto that it's like, it doesn't matter if you had a shitty month or a shitty quarter or even a shitty year. It's like you have to stay invested. The market's going to gift you with some kind of opportunity. You have to be capitalized when it does come.
Yeah, you said it perfectly. Swings at bat. It's exactly that. Crypto is it's a gift. It just gives you plenty of opportunity, and eventually, I mean, it's not going to always work out, but eventually it does. And you want to have some sort of exposure for when it happens. Everyone has everyone's time is different, I guess, but that's the biggest takeaway for me is I realized that it took me a while to realize that. I've gotten wrecked for my whole portfolio many times in the past, and only recently, I think the last couple of years, have I started to realize that never lose it all. Whatever you do, never lose it all. Like back in the day, I used to bet my whole net worth on BitMEX, and I mean, it's an easy way to make crazy amount of money, but it's the easiest way to lose it all. So, just never lose it all. Never bet it all with leverage, and have skin in the game. What's
wild about hearing you say that, because most people associate, if they follow you on Twitter, if they've heard about you at all, whether it's through this show right now, is how well you've done in the past year margin trading. I would have expected that you came from something like FX where you were already kind of actively day trading or whatever it is. It makes your trading challenge that you did last year that much more impressive. Like that was your first year of margin trading, and explain the public challenge for people that aren't familiar, because I've seen 100 of these things proposed on Twitter. 100 of them
Yeah.
have failed until yours,
I bet.
which is
Yeah.
why it caught my attention. I think
Yeah.
I initially saw you say that. I wasn't following you. I just saw like another thing on my timeline, and it always gets 100 retweets. He said, look, guys, I'm going to start with 2 Bitcoin. This is my goal by the end of the year. And it's, you know, I just scroll by. I'm like, yeah, okay. And then a month or two later, it's like, you know, it's up 50%. A month later, it's up 50%. And I'm like, holy shit, he's actually doing it. So explain how that challenge went. And that's crazy, man, if that was really the first year of kind of actively trading that.
So, okay, first of all, it wasn't my first year leverage trading. Per se, like I've dipped my toes in the water before, but never worked out. And it was just like, it was just to feed my like adrenaline, I guess, back in the day. But only in 2020, did I really start taking it seriously. So this challenge itself, like you said, I've seen many people do it, and not many people have success with it. But so for me, I was very keen on the transparency aspect of it. I figured that I've seen a lot of these challenges, and I've seen a lot of people fail. I've seen a few people succeed. I'll give them that, but it's never in like a transparent way. You know, you never really know if they're actually making money. So I took it upon myself to, you know, mess around with this. I had nothing to lose, I guess. And I started the account with 5 Bitcoin. It wasn't 2. It was 5 at the time, and it was April 6th, 2020. That's when I decided to start this thing. And I started with 5 Bitcoin, which at the time was, I think, around $30,000 to $35,000 with Bitcoin at what it was. Yep. So it was 35K. I had CoinMarketMan, which is like a journaling website, like API, everything verified. It was beautiful. So I started working with them. So everything was transparent. They set up a page for me where people could essentially just go on that page and see the positions I have, my past trades, my win rate, profits, et cetera, all of it, fully transparent. So I started with 5 Bitcoin, and I was pretty much just the thing I got. I think the advantage I had was being a bull before the general, I guess, sentiment was bullish. In March, that was when things really took a turn because of COVID and, you know, the liquidity crisis everywhere. So markets tanked, and everyone was just pure PTSD mode. Everyone was fearful as crap. So that's when I started I started the journey on April 6th with 5 Bitcoin. And I was like, okay, time to do this. Let's go for it. So I started with 5 Bitcoin, and I really took a limited amount of shorts, to be honest. I was just super bullish, and that's all it takes really to be a bull in a bull market. So just ran it up quite a bit. It was 5. I ended it last month. So about April, what was it? 8 or 9 months after I started it. And I ended off with 50 Bitcoin, I think, or 45 Bitcoin. So,
which is worth,
last
month,
from an ROI perspective, in terms of Bitcoin, that's only like a 9x, right? But because Bitcoin also went up in that time, the gains were almost exponential. It was like 5 Bitcoin on April 6, 2020 was like 30,000, but by the time I finished the challenge, it was like 1.6 million or something.
Yeah.
It was, I don't know what to tell you. It was just a lot of luck and a lot of just being a bull when it was time to be a bull.
Right. But that's so easy to say right now in hindsight. Like, I'm sure people listening are saying, man, you know, he started at the market bottom and Bitcoin ran to 50K. That's easy to make, you know, to return positive. I imagine a lot of, you know, everyone that bought Bitcoin is in profit, right? Bitcoin's at its all-time high. But at the same time, like going back to April, it's not the environment we're in right now. Like you said, it wasn't like everyone was bullish yet. We actually went through
tough.
a period. Like we rose to what, 8 or 9K, and then we ranged at 9 to 10K for almost 3 months. And like every day people were talking about 5K, 6K lower than 3. So it's not like it was full on bull. We're gaining 20% every day. We chopped for like 3 or 5 months straight. So How was that? If
I
you were
mean,
bullish throughout that whole thing, were you always taking 1 or 2% risk? Were you shot taking? How was the challenge?
that's the thing with me, and it might be a surprise to the viewers, but I don't really have a set, risk like most people do. I go off, a lot of it is gut feeling and intuition, and it helps that for me it's just like being in the crypto markets or even the stock markets for as long as I've been, and for as like I started off at a really young age. So paired that with the fact that I've gotten wrecked multiple times in the last few years, like emotionally I'm just like a rock, and I think that really helps with leverage trading, being like just as cool as a rock. Whether you make a ton of money or lose a ton of money, just don't get emotional with it. And at the time in April, May, when markets were just super choppy, I wasn't just taking longs, I was taking a few shorts at the time, and it played out well. But at the time, the account was swinging quite a bit because I didn't really have any set or like predetermined risk parameters. It was just go with the flow kind of vibes. And of course, it's not recommended, but again, I was going off just gut feeling and intuition. So yeah, it was, I don't know what to tell you.
if you could go back in the past year, was there like a trade that you think, because that strategy like it's worked for you, and it's funny, there's like a couple other traders, I'm not going to mention their names on Twitter, but they trade a massive amount of money and they swear by not using stops. I mean, different people have different approaches, man, and no one's here to give financial advice.
Yeah. I mean, if it works, it works, right?
Yeah. So it's like, as you go back in the past year, was there ever like a trade that you really wish you could take back, or throughout the challenge that you were like, did you have one of those moments where you're like, fuck, I just blew 30-40% of the account? Or did it ever get kind of that big? Like what? Because that strategy does work for you, but I imagine there's still something in your mind with that gut, with that intuition that keeps you in check. Like what kind of things are you thinking about each day to keep yourself in check?
For me, it's just like I told you, just never lose it all. Like it's fine being it's fine being a degenerate, but never there's a limit to it, right? You don't want to take an insane amount of risk to the point where the market does something crazy and you lose it all. And back when price was below 10K Bitcoin was below 10K, it would always do these ridiculous spurts, like 10% candles out of nowhere. And it's quite amazing because it doesn't really do that these days. It's almost like price is stabilized, but back in the day, it was regularly it would go from 9K down to 7K within an hour out of nowhere, and
then flatline for a week.
Caught with your pants down. Yeah, you don't want to get caught with your pants down when that happens. So, for me, there was never really a trade or a memorable trade that either worked in my favor or didn't work in my favor. And a big part of that goes with the fact that just emotionally, I feel nothing when I make a lot of money or lose a lot of money. So there's nothing really memorable for me. But yeah. I mean, before, in terms of a memorable trade, leverage trade, before this whole Bybit challenge started in March, I was short the whole Corona dump. And that was a real turning point for me in my crypto trading career or whatever this is. I was short because I saw a lot of media coverage and a lot of panic. And to me, it seemed like it was unwarranted panic. It was just over-exaggeration by media, whatnot. And I saw, celebrities getting COVID, that is. So I was short with massive size, and I would say more money than I could afford to lose if it went up, but I was short and it worked out. I took profits too early, but it worked out. And that was really the turning point for me in terms of trading. But as for the Bybit challenge, there's really never a special moment or a big loss that I regret or would like to take back, because it ended really well. Yeah. I didn't really expect. Yeah, it ended really well, and I didn't expect to do as well as I did. It's good to have low expectations when you start doing these things. So
yeah.
I never really expected to make a ton of money, but yeah, I wouldn't take anything back. with in any just not just anything in any part of this crypto journey, I would never take anything back because I'm really happy with where I'm at right now.
Yeah. Well, when you have that expectation
Yeah.
and you're doing it for the right reasons, then, I mean, clearly you were genuinely interested when you got into stocks and when you got into Ethereum and all
Yeah.
this. It's with that intent, kind of with the pure motive of just wanting to do it because it interests you. It has a higher tendency, I think, to end up like that versus,
Exactly.
if you have 10 grand and you need to make 10 grand next month to pay your bills, it's like, you're probably going to just take excessive risk and it's not going to go
Exactly.
So,
I'm fortunate enough to be living in my parents' basement. I'm literally recording this in my parents' basement right now. So I really had no real need for money, and that's something to be grateful of. I know many people are not in that situation. Like you said, they take on bigger risk because they need to pay rent, they need food on the table. So I'm grateful for that. And of course, if you're passionate about something, the money is just a byproduct. So if you stay exposed long enough, eventually you'll have your big break.
Yeah.
I truly believe that.
Rookie, as you're
So
looking
for those listening,
yeah.
for those listening, if things aren't going well right now, I promise you they will eventually. You just got to stay consistent with it.
Stay exposed. Rookie, I'm curious, there's got to be some people that are wondering where your trade ideas come from, whether it's technical, whether it's sentiment like that. But I'm much more curious where the magnet came from, because you have this superpower. You draw a magnet, a literal picture of a magnet on charts now. It started out as a meme, but clearly it just works. Where did the magnet come from? Why use the magnet? What's going on there?
Like you said, it started off as a big meme. I would just draw random charts on Twitter when I had like maybe a couple thousand followers. So like early 2020, February 2020, I think I had 2,000 followers. I would just make charts and put a magnet as a target for where I think price would end up. And eventually, for some reason, I still don't know the reason, but price would always end up hitting the magnet. And eventually, people on Twitter started sort of personifying the magnet in a way, and it just started picking up traction. And there's hundreds of people with magnets in their name now on Twitter somehow. And it was a meme, but for me, it's a meme, but it makes sense. I usually put the magnets where I think price is going in terms of measured moves. So if there's a bull flag, for example, I would end up putting a magnet where if the price action resolved bullish upwards, the measured move is where I would put the magnet. And of course it's going to work. We're in a bull market, so number goes up, and as long as the magnet's higher than current price, it's going to end up going there. There's no real secret sauce, but yeah, I appreciate people giving it more credit than it deserves.
The magnet gang. I've seen you put more magnets on alt charts in the past 6 months. Everyone's been focusing on DeFi. We were talking about a lot of DeFi plays. Man, it's so funny to go back in our DMs as we were setting up this call. Because 9 months ago, I remember we were talking about a couple ideas that we thought we were both super late on. It was like I don't know what play you were talking about. You were saying, "Hey Luke, I like this look. This is the thing," and I'm like, "Oh fuck, you nailed the entry. I'm gonna find the next one." And then I picked Kava, and I was like, I think it's about to break all-time highs. That thing rips, and you're like, now I'm late. I mean, it's hilarious. Go back and look at both those. Now they're both 10x higher, and I sold too soon on both. But it's so funny. You've been focusing a lot more on the DeFi plays, and most people have that are akin to what's happening here. What's kind of your shift now, right? Like 2020 to during the challenge, you were almost solely Bitcoin, and you crushed the margin trading. What's your shift now with DeFi plays? Because that obviously still interests you versus Bitcoin margin. Is like a 50-50 split. Where do you see the most opportunity for yourself? And then what about for other traders? Like, how do you think they should approach it?
So for me personally, that Bybit challenge essentially just changed the trajectory, like the risk taking for me. I would, like, after I made the money I made with that challenge, I was extremely focused on just putting my money into spot alts. I don't really want to take that sort of risk anymore because there were a lot of sleepless nights. It's not easy trading with leverage. It's tough emotionally, mentally. So even in 2020, I was keen on. There was the leverage account with Bybit, which I would use to take the risk, but then I would just chuck a few Bitcoin here and there into DeFi plays. And I was talking to you about it, like you said. And at the time, we did feel extremely late.
Yeah, it was
for some reason.
May last year or something, June.
Yeah, I mean, looking back, I wish I put my whole net worth into some of these things and just held on. But it seemed like we were late. But now, like you said, they're all up several multiples higher.
Yep.
Back in the day, I would, DeFi. It was DeFi. I don't know enough about DeFi to really give advice on it. I get so many DMs about it, but I literally have no clue. I don't know enough to explain, but I just know that if I were to place some sort of singular bet on the crypto markets for the long term, it would be in DeFi, just because, that's what all the big brains are doing. So you can't go wrong copying them. So that's sort of my approach right now. Is last year it was a lot of leverage trading to try to grow up the account, but now I'm sitting pretty comfortable, and I've just been buying a ton of DeFi plays that I think will do well this year. I know a lot of them are up. A lot of them are maybe up 10x even since just the start of 2021. But I'm still buying these DeFi plays because I think they're pretty undervalued. I read somewhere that all the DeFi plays are still only 5% of the total crypto market cap.
Yeah, it is that small.
Which is ridiculously small in my opinion. There's still substantial upside, especially with all of these traditional finance people coming in. So I think if there's a category I would put my money in, it's DeFi, and that's what I've been doing. I've just been accumulating a ton of spot alts and just trying to get into the top 50, top 100, top 10 holders list on each of these coins. That's just my priority right now.
Yeah.
Keeping leverage trading to a minimum.
It's if Bitcoin is decentralized money, I kind of just think of DeFi because I'm not a big brain either. I try to have them on the show to explain it to me. But the best way I can summarize it is if Bitcoin is decentralized money, like a decentralized way that we can transfer value and store value, it's like a lot of these DeFi protocols, what they're proposing and what they hope to achieve is decentralized lending, decentralized trading, decentralized borrowing, basically every other function of finance. If Bitcoin serves the money role, the base asset role, then these protocols potentially could kind of play that other part. And what you said, it's it sounds funny, just follow the big brains, but that's what most VCs do in traditional finance. Most people just follow the leader, and there's a herd mentality a little bit with chasing the thing that has the most momentum. There's probably a reason it has the most momentum. Obviously, that can get out of whack with things like GameStop, but generally that's how most of the world invests. I mean, it's not a bad approach.
Yeah, there's absolutely no reason to try and counter trade big brains. Why would you? It's clearly where all the money's flowing in, and if you look at the total value lock, for example, it's going absolutely bonkers right now, and there's a reason for it. So there's no reason for you as an individual to think maybe, let me try to find the next big thing. That's just not the vibe right now. It's just follow the money, and you can't go wrong because the big brains are doing it.
How helpful are big brains in finding your plays? I think one thing that's just incredibly valuable, and I'm kind of blessed, is that similar to you, I just spend way too much time on Twitter, and now I have this kind of massive network of people that are constantly, you get 100 unwarranted DMs every single day of, hey, look at this alt project. But then you also have people that I know are doing this every single day and are pretty successful with it, like yourself, that you can talk about alt plays with, or you can talk about Bitcoin direction with, and you can also follow, the Three Arrows Chads like Suju and them. How helpful is it in finding new ideas, breaking that idea down a little bit more, following their ideas versus coming up with your own? What do you think that split is? Do you ever think to yourself, I'm going to find a new alt play and do it yourself, or is it generally kind of using your network to find those ideas?
It's using my network, I would say, and that's what I would, even to all the people listening, I would say, make a Twitter account if you don't already have one, because it's an extremely convenient thing to have. Back in 2017, I was just, like I said, trading for myself, by myself, had no clue what altcoins were, nothing. It was just me, and that's the biggest thing I would change, is having a Twitter account. earlier, because now you have all these like dozens and even hundreds of eyes on the market, which is like, it's so effective. If you learn how to block out all the noise, and there's obviously a ton of crap on Twitter, but if you know who to follow, if you just like block out all the noise, and of course you don't rely solely on all this Twitter alpha and all these big brains, but if you have the ability to filter some of the stuff out and do your own due diligence and just put the two together, it's a superpower. You'll just read everything super well, and that's pretty much what I've been doing. It's a mix. It's a healthy mix of seeing what credible people are saying and credible people are getting into, as well as just what your intuition says. And if you master those two, you're off to the races. You're doing well.
Yeah. Rookie, what do you think happens if this DeFi, let's just say, I'm going to propose something wild because I don't think this happens at all, but let's say the DeFi trend just completely deflates, Bitcoin rips back down to 20K, bull market's over pretty soon. Is there like a level where you kind of just want to, you'd maybe take a break, or would you always be trading? I'm asking this because you went through a pretty major drawdown on your Binance account. I don't know if that was 3 or 4 months ago. And it was a public thing because you share the same thing with your Bybit challenge. You share exactly what's happening with your trading. And there's a lot of people saying, oh man, he lost 200K or X amount. Is he going to come back from this? You did come back from it. Is there like, if that happens again, first of all, how'd you deal with that drawdown? Because that's something that every trader is going to experience. And then, if we go through another bear market, how do you think you're going to approach it? Are you going to keep trading, or are you just going to kind of say, look, I have enough Bitcoin, I'm setting this aside, and that's that?
Well, first of all, the reason I make everything transparent, and there's a few people that don't agree with that, but the reason I make it transparent is because I don't want people, especially these days, there's a lot of new money and new people coming into the space, and I don't want people to sort of get the wrong perception that it's always like, rainbows and riches here. It's definitely not the case. So with that drawdown on Binance at the time, I think Binance made their leaderboard thing, so everything was public, and I was just sharing with all the followers I had at the time. It was September when DeFi had its run that summer, and then in September it started cooling off, and I was extremely overexposed on leverage, and the drawdown was like in like the first week of September I lost like 300 or 400K. But it was public, so people grilled me. Yeah. It was like, it wasn't fun. It was like everybody like just started like going off on me. It was people were making like straight up, I don't know how they have all this time, but they were making like infographics about me, like Rookie just lost 400K. It's all
job application, but, McDonald's job application.
It was ridiculous. But what I did was I just like I told you, whether it's a gain or a loss, I'm just like as cool as a rock. So I didn't really let it get to my head, but it's not fun when you have people just like tweeting about you all day, but it is what it is. I mean, if it helps people understand that it's not always you're not always going to make life-changing money in this market, I'm all for it. So yeah, I mean, I lost a bunch of money, but never let it get to your head, because you're all going to lose a bunch of money. That's a fun fact. But yeah, so since then, thankfully, I've been able to dig myself out of that account. And as of today, I think I'm a top 75 on all time on Binance. So that's worked out well.
Hell of a recovery story. What about now? If DeFi comes back, I imagine one thing that's going to help you in the next bear market, and that people should be considering if they're up heaps, is, as you said, maybe focusing a little bit less on being levered, because leverage is great during a bull market, right? But at the same time, it's also what amplifies your losses when things start moving down. So as you hit a bear market, you can be massively exposed, but if you're massively exposed with no leverage, it's a whole lot worse than being massively exposed with 10x leverage. Is that kind of one of the ways you're preparing for the upcoming bear market, whenever that is?
Yeah, for me, like I told you, I believe in DeFi. I think, and I've been tweeting about this constantly. People get too anxious. Like the first red candle they see, I feel like they get too anxious because, first of all, they're overexposed, and I guess that works in a bull market, but sometimes it doesn't. And I've also said this: like treat every drawdown as a higher low, and if you compare that to like just charts in general, higher lows are bullish. But sorry, I forgot the question. What was the question?
Just, if we ever do hit the next bear market for DeFi like we had in September, how do you do you think just being in spot helps you a ton? Like instead of being, because you said you're focusing a lot less on leveraged Bitcoin.
Yeah, me personally, I've been focusing a lot, like just like not as much at all compared to last year or the years before. It's all the profits I'm making, I'm just like blindly chucking it into DeFi plays, regardless of the price. Well, I don't care if I'm buying the local top, because I know, I think that I'm not buying local. It's a local top, but in 12 months from now, it's not going to matter, right? Like exactly like our convos, like in summer 2020, we thought we were buying local tops, so we just shied away from all these coins. But had we pulled the trigger back in the day, I don't think we'd be doing this interview. Yeah. We'd be on our islands. So yeah, I don't really care about the entry. I don't think it's something to really stress over. Just have skin in the game and be exposed to the markets. And I'm just buying anything and everything that claims to be DeFi at this point. Some of my biggest bags are like Alpha, Sushi, just buying all I can and chucking it away on a ledger, and just picturing myself 12 months from now. I don't care what happens tomorrow, and I don't think anybody should, because that's like the wrong mindset to have. There's people out there like constantly refreshing their portfolio and getting super anxious when Bitcoin drops 5% and takes the market down with it. But I don't think that's really the ideal approach here.
Yeah.
And if leverage trading is not working for you, this is the thing to do. Just chuck it in spot coins and come back in a year from now.
And be exposed.
You should be sitting pretty.
Yeah. Be exposed to the best performing asset in the world. Rookie, is there a number for you that you would stop trading, or that you would, you're definitely not refreshing your portfolio every 10 minutes anymore. We talked before the show about you hitting some of your goals and potentially kind of moving to a new spot and trying some new things out. What are you doing when you're not sitting here trading and on Twitter? Is there a number for you where you stop trading, and what are you doing when you do take a break?
Well, in terms of a number for me, the number I have right now 3 years ago was the number for me, so it's just like, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's greed. I don't know if it's just like the constant need for dopamine, adrenaline. It's just, you just want to, and a big part of it is, I don't think the market's done. I think it's going to continue going up, and I want to take advantage of it, because it is probably a once in a lifetime thing. So now's not the time to be like, okay, I'm done with this. I hit my number. Let's walk away. So in terms of number for me, there really isn't a number. It's just milking the cow as much as I can. And in terms of what I do on my off time, there really isn't nothing to do. I have very supportive family and friends keeping my helping me keep my mind off things every now and then. But especially with COVID these days, there's really not much to do. And that's a big reason, like I told you, big reason. We're making all this money, internet money, numbers on a screen, green numbers on a screen, and there's really nothing to do right now with COVID. So hopefully things die down, and then I plan on moving to Dubai, like I told you, and hopefully that helps me really appreciate the money that's making. I think that's a big thing that people don't really do. Really, they sell themselves short. They don't really appreciate the milestones or the goals they're hitting, because it's always happening so fast, right? So I think that's something people should do. Like, celebrate the little stuff, because you worked hard for it.
Yeah.
It's hard right now, obviously, but yeah, that's all I can say.
No, I like that. I think that's valuable for everyone, whatever level they're at, whether they're at their number from 3 years ago or that number is still 3 years off.
Yeah,
I think that's helpful.
even for me personally, yesterday I hit the 100,000 follower mark, and I had a little party here, and it's good to really appreciate what you're doing, just whether it be hitting certain net worth goals or hitting certain goals in any business. It's just, you got to appreciate it. You got to appreciate the journey. So yeah.
One of the things I saw you're able to do through your Twitter is I think you hooked up your dad with a fresh range. Is there a car? If you're a car guy, is there a certain thing you have picked out when you get to Dubai?
Yeah. First of all, doing that for my dad was a pretty big deal for me. It was, it was. I mean, after it was like all these sleepless nights and all the years of trading finally paid off in a sense. It was a really big thing for me. And the fact that I've done that, I feel like I can take bigger risks now because like I've sort of that's figured out. Yeah. But in terms of my favorite vehicle, it would be a McLaren 720S. That's the goal.
These things are amazing.
The goal in Dubai.
Yeah, you fit right in. There's you see crazy shit like that in Dubai all the time, dude.
It's a wild
place.
That's you go to Dubai and everyone's a baller there. So I think that's a good thing though. Like I hope it motivates me just being around like-minded people.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it should. Rookie, before we wrap up, I appreciate you coming on, man. Your story has been incredible. Like I said, it was the most impressive public trading challenge I've ever seen. I'm glad I did follow you and we got to talk over the past couple of years or year, I should say, and talk about some of those DeFi plays. I wish we just would have all in with our net worth on those plays, but who knows? Maybe it wouldn't have worked out so well. So maybe I'm glad we didn't. But I'm glad we got to record this, man. Wish nothing but the best for you. Yep. And but before we wrap up, I always like to ask this. A lot of traders, a lot of investors listening, probably some of your audience. Is there like one trade that you're looking at in the short term? Are you super excited about Bitcoin's upside at 50K? It's kind of like a weird number. Like Bitcoin at 50K is tough to get excited about. At the same time, we're still early. But then you have DeFi plays doing well. Is there a certain trade that that's keeping your mind running right now? It doesn't have to be a call or anything, but just curious what you're looking at.
Aside from like Bitcoin and the fact that it's going to probably just rip here because, Elon's in. I mean, Elon's not going to lose. So there's just like a bunch of money coming in. So there's no reason to be a bear. So aside from that, like there's one altcoin I'm just constantly buying, like regardless of the price, and that's Alpha. So maybe this is me shilling Alpha, but I'm a pretty big holder of Alpha.
It's time to shill. I give you full permission.
Yeah, it's time to shill. I'm a top 10 holder of Alpha, and I just think it's relatively undervalued, and it's a blue chip in the making. So Alpha Rune's also cool with their. You should look into it with like cross chain DeFi. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. So I still think we're early, and as crazy as that sounds, we're early. It's hard to believe because we're just so confined to this space, crypto Twitter, and it seems like we've been here forever, but it feels like there's a ton of new money coming in, and eventually it starts off with Bitcoin, but eventually they're going to trickle down into these altcoins, and it's going to pay big to be early into some of these. And that's my play here. Just buy some altcoins, and even if you experience short-term drawdown, just picture yourself in a year. You should be sitting pretty.
Picture yourself in a year in Dubai in a McLaren. It seems like that's fair.
Yeah, why not, right?
Exactly. Rookie, I appreciate you coming on the show, man. An absolute pleasure. And yeah, we'll have this out pretty soon. For everyone listening, links right down below. If you're listening on iTunes, Spotify, his link to follow RookieXBT on Twitter. If you're watching on YouTube, you can find his links below. Rookie, thanks for coming on, man. Have a good rest of the week, and I'm sure we'll talk soon about some DeFi play we should buy.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me, and thanks for everyone listening. Really appreciate it.
Of course, brother.